live. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here this afternoon. I'm Carrie Burns. I'm with the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association, and we're so happy to be partnering with you guys today. Partnering with the board, sorry, that poll popped up and it really threw me for a loop. Partnering with the Board of Elections on all things poll worker and voting. There's an election coming up November 8th, if not all of you knew. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. We have three fantastic individuals from the Board of Elections. Jeff, I think you should pick one camera because now we see you twice.
Oh, I have two. Okay, let's.
But I'm going to go ahead and do introductions while Jeff's taking care of that. So first we have Anthony Perlotti. He is the director of the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections. He joined the Board of Elections as the Human Resources Manager in 2007 and was subsequently appointed to Deputy Director in February of 2013. Having 26 years of public service, 14 years devoted to the administration of the Board of Elections, he brings the position of Director extensive experience in planning, leadership, and high quality service to the Board of Elections and the public. Director Perlotti was recently appointed to the 2022 to second vice president of the Ohio Association of Election Officials. Prior to becoming an officer, Tony served as a trustee and a member of its legislative committee. He also serves as a member of the Ohio Board Voting Machine Examiners. And then also with us today, we have two appointees, Ina Jo Davis Chappelle. She is the Democratic appointee since April of 2007. She is a retired partner at Ulmer and Byrne in Cleveland. Ina Jo has been named to the Ohio Super Lawyer List and Best Lawyer of the Year for Nonprofit Charities Law in Cleveland and has received numerous professional and civic awards. As an active and civic community leader, she serves on boards of a number of nonprofit organizations. She is the former member and former chair of the Ohio Board of Voting Machine Examiners, and she holds a bachelor's degree from Yale University and a law degree from Columbia University. And then to round out our panel this afternoon, Jeff Hastings. He's been a member of the Board of Elections since April 2007 and has served as board chairman from April 2007 to December 2012. A former judge of the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas, Jeff is currently a practicing attorney in Cleveland. Previously, he served as managing attorney for the Cleveland office of the Ohio Attorney General. After graduating from Ashland University with a BA in political science and economics, Jeff went on to obtain his MBA from Baldwin-Wallace and a JD from Cleveland Marshall College of Law. So thank you all for being here this afternoon. And as everyone saw, there is a poll that popped up. We wanted to level set where everyone is today. So please answer the poll. Are you registered as a poll worker this year? And I think, Dominica, you are sharing the results. And so with that, we are going to start with a presentation from our presenters today, and the last 20 to 30 minutes, we're going to take your questions. So as you're listening, please use the Q&A feature or the chat feature in your screen. Put your questions in there and we'll get those to our speakers shortly. Tony, take it away.
Carrie, I want to thank you for having us today. There's a lot of good information that we're going to get out to the body today for this upcoming November 8th election. I'll go ahead and get my screen shared. And okay. So yes, we're here today to talk about the November 8th, 2022 general election, which is also known as a gubernatorial election. And what we hope to do today in our conversation with you is hit on three main topics related to this upcoming election, which is some core election information that would be helpful to voters, and what we use internally at the Board of Elections to help us prepare for the specific election. Talk about why Ohio and Cuyahoga County specifically, why our elections are good elections conducted with integrity, that voters should have faith in their vote being counted and being counted correctly. And then talk about an attorney precinct election official program or attorney poll worker program, and how you can sign up to participate in that process and how attorneys are helpful to the conduct of elections. So we're going to start off with taking a look at some numbers for the November 8th election. Cuyahoga County is the largest voting jurisdiction in the state. While Franklin County may have more population than Cuyahoga, we have more registered voters than they do. So right now we're at about 873,000 plus registered voters, and that number will continue to climb as we approach the close of voter registration for the November election. Cuyahoga County is made up of 59 municipalities, and the Cuyahoga County Board of Elections conducts all elections within those 59 municipalities. 975 precincts make up the county, and what a precinct is the smallest geographic grouping of voters in the county. The municipalities determine what the ward boundaries are within their city, and then the Board of Elections comes behind and draws these precincts where we group together voters geographically close. We have about 1,000 registered voters in a precinct, and that's important because every precinct has its own ballot, and each precinct is then assigned to a polling location. There are 286 polling locations that the Board of Elections will have for the upcoming November election. And to get a polling location, the Board of Elections works with the local municipalities and comes up with a combination of both public and private buildings that we conduct the elections. We have a 30+ page ADA checklist that we go through to ensure that a polling location is sufficient to serve the voters. And then we take those precincts and we assign them to the polling locations. And for this election, our goal is to hire 4,000 poll workers or precinct election officials to go ahead and execute the election. And you can see with this chart, this is a breakdown of what the partisan affiliation of the voters are in Cuyahoga County. And you can see that the majority of voters in Cuyahoga County do not have a party affiliation. They are unaffiliated voters. And that is more relevant in a partisan primary versus a general election where it's one ballot type and everyone gets that ballot. All right, we'll talk a little bit about how people do get a party affiliation in the state of Ohio. And those party affiliations are determined by individuals voting in a partisan primary. Now, we've already had 2 elections in 2022, one in May and one in August, and those were partisan primaries where the individual had to select a party type that they wanted to vote on, and that ballot only contained candidates from that specific political party. The winners in those 2 elections now have advanced to the November ballot, where again, now it's just one ballot when you go into your polling location, and you're not selecting whether you want a Democrat or Republican ballot, you're just getting a ballot, and then all eligible candidates, whether Democrat or Republican, are on that ballot for you to vote on, which allows individuals then in Ohio to what we call vote a split ticket if they so choose, picking the candidate that they feel is best for each individual office. Also, what you'll see on this upcoming ballot in November are a lot of important, while every election is important, there are some bigger offices that will appear on the ballot. The United States Senator, United States House of Representatives will be on the ballot, as well as all your statewide candidates. So Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, Treasurer, Auditor, Ohio Supreme Court appear, as well as other judges that are in Cuyahoga County. The county executive will appear on the ballot. And then across the 59 municipalities, many of them have local issues or charter amendments that will appear. And there are 2 statewide issues that appear on this upcoming November ballot. Now, as we prepare to execute our elections at the Board of Elections, we look to the past and to see what the voters did in previous elections. We look to see what is the current atmosphere across the state and in Cuyahoga County, as far as are people excited about the ballot or voting or not, what's on that ballot. And that's how we figure out how many ballots to order, how many temporary employees to bring on board to handle the turnout. And we do that, again, by looking to the past and taking into account the present day. So in November of 2014, Cuyahoga County had a 40% voter turnout. In 2018, it increased to 55%, which was somewhat of a record turnout in a gubernatorial election year. We believe that this upcoming 2022 general election will mirror 2018's turnout pretty closely. We think we'll have 55% turnout again for the election. And Part of the reason is we look to see that we know that we have an open United States Senate seat, and that's going to drive a lot of voter turnout. We have an open Cuyahoga County executive contest on the ballot, which again will drive a lot of turnout. And those are types of things that we consider. Of our turnout, we'll think about 295,000 or 61% of the voters will go to the polls on election day. Another 170,000 or 35% will vote by mail, and about 20,000 individuals or 4% of the voters of that 55% will come and vote early in person at the Board of Elections. Part of the election day turnout and vote by mail turnout will be provisional voters. And they're not additional voters, but there's about 12,000 people we anticipate will vote provisionally, whether they come and vote early in person or vote on election day. And so you cannot vote provisionally by mail. Provisional ballots are a good thing. Sometimes they get a bad rap. It is a safeguard for individuals that allows them to vote in an election where otherwise they may not have been able to. So those are all things that we take into account.
Tony, excuse me for interrupting, Tony, and for some of our panel members. So let's do an example of provisional ballot. In fact, provisional ballots increase participation in the voter process, correct?
That is correct.
So let's use an example. Jeff Hastings lives at ABC Street, but doesn't change his registration within 30 days of the election and moves to XYZ Street in the same city, different ward. And it's a general election, just like we're coming up. Why do I need to vote provisional ballot now when I go to vote at my XYZ voting location?
So Ohio sets the voter registration deadline at 30 days prior to the election. And that's for newly registered as well as address changes to existing. So if an individual is registered by that deadline, they're eligible to participate. But if they haven't updated their address by that deadline, they're still eligible, but they have to vote in the correct location in that precinct that is assigned to where they physically reside and will be registered to vote or should be registered to vote in. So by going to that location, the electronic poll book, which has a listing of everyone who is eligible to vote in that precinct, they will not appear there. But when they inform the poll worker that they have moved, they'll send them over to vote a provisional ballot, of which a provisional ballot also serves as a registration card. So they will put their name, their date of birth, a form of ID, and they will put down what their new address is. And we will get them that correct ballot that matches what it should be for that street address where they now live. So this way, they have the correct ballot, they vote it, they put it in the envelope. So it's segregated. So when it comes back to our offices, staff can go ahead, research it, make sure that the ballot they received would be for where they now reside. Staff will update the voter registration database to match where they go ahead and reside. And then ultimately, that ballot will be opened and counted, albeit not on election day. It will be counted in the official certification of the election. So it allows that person who is registered but didn't update their registration to still participate, have their ballot count, but we need them to vote the ballot that is associated where they currently live, not where they formerly lived.
Okay, Tony, thank you for that excellent explanation. And let's just walk it through a little further. So when I go to my XYZ voting location where I reside now, but I'm registered at ABC, I'll go in and I'll show them my driver's license, which still has my ABC address. And they'll look me up and say, Mr. Hastings, we got you registered at ABC address. And you're going to have, and I'm going to say, well, I live at XYZ, and here's a utility bill that shows that I'm living here, or some sort of documentation other than my driver's license. They're going to say, Mr. Hastings, go to the provisional table, just as you explained, Tony, for those reasons you explained. I'm going to fill it out. I need to present some sort of identification that I live at XYZ. If I don't have that with me, which most people don't, then I have so many days to get down to the Board of Elections and supplement my provisional envelope, correct, with that documentation.
You can supplement up until 7 days after Election Day. You can come to the board offices and provide documentation.
Right. So in other words, now my vote will be counted because I've taken all these steps. 10 years ago, when we didn't have provisional options, I wouldn't have been able to vote because I wasn't registered within that 30 days. So when there is a kind of a stigma associated with provisional ballots, but in fact, they increase the amount of participation in our elections and are good things. So I appreciate that explanation and continue on. Thank you.
Hey, one step, since we're talking about provisional ballots, I think we may talk about them a little later too, but we often see, folks that are getting a provisional ballot because they have voted by mail or requested a vote by mail ballot. They come, they're concerned that, it's not going to get there in time. Or sometimes they vote it, but still are concerned that it's not going to get there in time. And then they show up on election day and vote as well. So we do have lots of procedures, and we have tripwire functions. The ballots are not going to get counted twice. But again, because people say, well, do you turn those over to, the prosecutor because people have voted twice? We've come to find over the years that, most people are not intending to game the system and to vote twice. They don't have the intentionality to commit voter fraud, if you will, but we are finding that they're concerned about the post office. They're concerned about, whether their ballot's going to be counted because it doesn't arrive timely. And so we see a lot of that happening occasionally, and we will often have to, in that scenario, sometimes we have to issue provisional ballot because we have folks coming to vote and we're not clear that they, that they realize that they've already cast a vote. So there's a lot of issues around provisional ballots. They really are a good thing, even though they get a bad rep, because we would rather have people vote, and we are able at the Board of Elections to figure out what's going on, and people can update their information. The provisional, to Tony's point, acts as a registration, but it's an important thing, a tool to be able to have. We don't like to see as many people would update their registrations timely. We wouldn't, but it's actually a good thing to give people a provisional ballot to vote. I just saw one question in the chat that maybe we can talk about. Tony, I know we send bipartisan teams out to nursing homes to make sure that people who are disabled, people in those locate facilities can vote. And can you just, we used to, and I believe that we still have opportunities for people who are incarcerated to vote, but explain, there's some nuances around that. Did you see the question in the chat, Tony?
I'm trying to see the chat.
Yeah, the question originally was jail voters' access to voting for this election, including a process for requesting a ballot in jail. So what, yes, so I can speak to that. And so in Cuyahoga County, what we do is we do have a relationship with the county jail, and we work to set up a program in which an individual who is, so what we do is we wait till closer to election day to go to the jail and coordinate with the jail administration to have people request a vote by mail ballot and go ahead and vote them. And that's because there is definitely, it's transient, people coming in and out, and we hopefully more people are going out than coming in. And so if they're out prior to election day, they're able to go ahead, vote early in person, they can go to the polls and vote. But about a week before election day, we will go to the county jail. We will bring applications for those individuals and give it to the jail personnel, who then they will go ahead and give them to individuals who are interested in voting. We then collect back those applications, and we will come back with a bipartisan team of individuals and deliver those ballots for the individuals who are currently awaiting for a hearing to determine what's going to happen with their future. And that same process is used for basically the same kind of process is used in nursing home facilities too. So
exactly. And then we come back, we pick up those ballots and we bring them down and we go ahead and we count those. So there is that opportunity to do it. Again, we kind of purposely wait till about a week before election day to capture those individuals who may be being detained in the jail on election day versus those who may have been released earlier on in the process.
Tony, there's another question too that maybe you can answer. It talks about if you vote provisionally in the wrong precinct, does it count?
Okay, so the answer is it depends. So if an individual votes in the wrong precinct, but they are in the correct location for where they should be, that provisional will count. And what happens in that process is doing our research post-election, we determined that they should have gotten a ballot for precinct X, but they got one for precinct Y. And then with a bipartisan team, we open up that envelope and we get a clean, unvoted ballot for the correct precinct. And that bipartisan team then marks the voters' ballot selections on that correct ballot. And that was ultimately what will be tabulated. We keep the ballot that was incorrectly issued to the voter. So we historically have that we can always point back to say, this is what they marked and this is what we did. And so in that instance, that ballot will count. If an individual casts a ballot in the wrong precinct and they are in the wrong location, that ballot is not counted. It is not remade, and that will just be a invalidated ballot. And where we see that happen sometimes is an individual may come into that location, maybe it's closer to 7:30, and they're in the wrong location, and the poll workers say, hey, you need to go over to this other location and vote. And they go, I'm not going to make it on time, or I'm not going, and they demand a ballot. Well, we go ahead and we give them that ballot. We make them aware that this may not count, and they go ahead and they vote that. And that's a wrong precinct, wrong location ballot that the person there most likely just did not want to leave, and they're at fault, where the first scenario potentially may have been a poll worker inadvertently giving out the wrong ballot to the voter.
Yeah, and let me just add that, thank you. So that answers the question, Tony. And the other error, which doesn't occur as frequently, is when someone walks in, and we'll talk about what poll workers do, I'll say, Hastings, ABC Street, Ward 1, Precinct 2, or Precinct A. And then there are two people behind me, a D and an R, that have those ballots, and I need to turn around and tell them Hastings, Precinct A, and they need to hand it to me, and then I need to look at it. So there's steps to verify this whole process, but unfortunately, sometimes it does occur. Finally, there was one other question about my ABC XYZ example, and I'm living at XYZ. I haven't registered to vote at XYZ. I should go to XYZ polling location, vote provisionally. I'll be re-registered. That's the correct way to do it. Well, someone said, well, Hastings, what if you go to ABC and vote? Well, you're really living in XYZ, even if it's in the same city. And the answer to that question, it's against the law. I mean, you're breaking the law. That people need to be aware of that. They don't want to hear the fact that they got to go back to XYZ to vote. They're going to say, I was at XYZ and they told me to come ABC. That's a matter of poll worker training. And that's a matter of having attorneys at the polls. They're explaining to these individuals where they need to vote and why they need to vote, because the law requires you to vote where you're residing, and where you're residing, is at XYZ Street. Thank you, Tony.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Okay. So we talked already a little bit about this, but there are three types of ways that individuals can cast ballots across the state of Ohio. And that's election day at the polling location, vote by mail, which is just that, voting by mail, and early in person at the Board of Elections. And from the numbers on the previous screen, election day voting at the polls is the most popular way that individuals vote in Cuyahoga County, followed by vote by mail and early in person. I will say, though, that as far as vote by mail is concerned, Cuyahoga County consistently, and has for over a decade, led the state in individuals voting by mail. We do it very well. A lot of people like it. They use it once and they come back again for more and more. And so it's a good way for individuals to vote. And regardless of the method you choose to vote, we count all those ballots. So sometimes you hear myths, well, they only count vote by mail if it's close, or earlier in person only if it's a tie. That is wrong. We count all of the ballots. And in fact, when you're watching on election night and looking for results, you'll see Cuyahoga County post results sometime between 7:45 and 8 o'clock will be the first time we do that. And what we are reporting is the vote by mail. What we have received up to and including election day, which oftentimes is at least a third of the ballots cast in the election, and also included in that tabulation is the early in-person voting that happened. So not only does it get counted, it gets reported first. And then as the results tick up throughout the evening, that's your election day ballots coming in on a rolling basis.
Yeah, just want to make sure I point out that, we are not permitted to tabulate vote by mail ballots once we, as they roll in and we receive them over time. We can process them and get them ready to be scanned, but just so it's clear, people say, oh, well, I voted by mail, my vote is already counted. Your vote does not get tabulated until the polls close. So it's important for people to know that. We can prepare them to be scanned and tabulated, but they are not actually tabulated until 7:30 when the polls close.
Correct. And the other thing I just want to bring to people's attention is, again, because no matter how you vote, it counts. Figuring out what you want to do and going to our website will help you prepare and get more information regarding specifics to each type of voting that you may engage in. We're quickly going to go through each of these types of voting. Election day, it's statutorily 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. On that Tuesday, November 8th. Voters must cast their ballots where they're assigned. So we talked about that. It's important to get there. Go to our website at www.443vote.us. And if you're unsure, with just very little information, you can find out exactly what your poll place assignment is, as well as Cuyahoga County sends out a voter information guide every election where we provide that information to you so you know. Registered voters who have moved and forgotten, that's that provisional process that we talked to. It's a good process. And close of registration, again, I want to point this out, October 11th, that is the close of registration. It is 9 p.m. on that date. That is important. So if you're not registered, that's the deadline to get included. If you moved and you don't want to vote provisionally, you want to update at that point in time, you can update your registration online going to our website. You will need either a driver's license or state ID along with your social security number, and you can do that. You can go to our website at the board and print off a registration card, and you can always go to your local library and complete a registration card and leave it there, and they will make sure that they get that back down to us. You do need to bring identification, as Jeff indicated. Make sure you have that with you so we can go ahead and ensure that you are in fact who you are and we get you a ballot. All right. Voting by mail. It is a multi-step process, and some individuals don't understand that. And what that means is you first have to complete an application in order for us to provide you with a ballot, and then you have to go ahead and complete the ballot and send that back to us in an identification envelope. There are 5 fields that are required for an individual to provide on an application. That is your printed name, your address, your date of birth, a form of ID, which most individuals either provide the last 4 digits of their social security number or their driver's license number, and then you need to sign that document. Once we get that, we will verify that against the voter registration database, and if everything matches, we will send you out a ballot. What's important is that while you can go ahead and submit applications in now, we cannot, by law, get ballots out until October 12th. So if you want your ballot sent to you as soon as possible, the sooner you get your application in, the sooner we can process it and send you a ballot closer to the beginning of the window, being October 12th, to get that to you. Once you get your ballot, again, it's a 2-step process. You'll have a identification envelope in which you need to put that same 5 fields on: printed name, address, date of birth, form of ID, and sign it. And when that comes back, we're going to verify that again against the registration database to ensure that it matches. And not until it matches will we consider your ballot to be eligible for counting. In even years, which this is, in the general election, the Secretary of State is able to send out applications. He has. In Cuyahoga County, those started hitting mailboxes right around the beginning of September. It is a good application. It's a good document, and we encourage you to use it if you have not. Again, the same fields that you fill out are on there, what's nice about that Secretary of State application is instead of you having to request the Board of Elections to send you the application, it's already in your hands. So now you fill it and send it back, and we'll get that processed as soon as we can. It is a no-fault vote by mail state here in Ohio, meaning you can, if you just want to vote by mail, you can. You don't have to be out of town on vacation or some business trip or whatever it may be. That's what the no-fault vote by mail is, and it really is a simple, secure, and convenient way for you to do it. Again, Cuyahoga County leads the state in processing this. We do it very well. A lot of individuals, a third or more, take advantage of it in our county, and we encourage you to also take advantage of it.
I just noted that someone has served as a poll worker, mentioned in the chat that sort of it makes sense for poll workers or those serving to vote by mail because of where their assignment is. It may not be in close proximity to their required polling location, so they may need to vote by mail. We mentioned the first day that voters can vote by mail, we often get requests, and I think the law is it 3 days before the election that voters haven't requested a vote by mail application. And the problem with that is we do have to factor in the U.S. Post Office. I always am encouraging folks, as we said earlier, plan how you're going to vote. It's just difficult to think that if you request it 3 days before the election, we're going to get it, be able to process it, turn it around, and then you get it back timely to be able to vote it and bring it back at that point. Probably might be the most efficient way to do it, and dropping it in the Dropbox or dropping it off with us as opposed to mailing it back. But that is a really short, on the back end of that process, there could be timing issues that voters need to consider. Sorry, I know we're getting close on time. I'll stop.
It's okay. All right. And then just lastly, early in person, there's one location in every county in Cuyahoga County. It's our main building at 2925 Euclid. The hours that are available vary depending on what week it is in the cycle. So going to our website, 443vote.us, you can go ahead and see what the hours are for the entirety of this cycle. There are 3 days of weekend voting for this upcoming election. Again, it would be on our website. And the beauty of the early in person is when you come down and vote with our staff, we have ballots for all 59 municipalities, all 975 precincts. So you can't be in the wrong location. And we have that ballot for you to vote. However, key point, we are not a polling location on election day. You have to go to your neighborhood location and vote. So if you're going to take advantage of this early in person, you need to follow the schedule that we have published, and it goes right up to the day before. But once that's done at 2 o'clock on that Monday before, can't come anymore. You have to go to where you need to be in your neighborhood. And if you do come, we will tell you where you need to go, but we will turn you away and send you on your way to that location. All right.
Tony, can I just comment on the next screen? Priority principles for full and fair elections. And I want to speak on behalf of my colleagues. I've had a privilege and honor to serve with Ina Jo. We're the 2 longest serving members right now. And I'm serving with Lisa Sticken, who's the other Republican member, and then Terry McCafferty was just appointed, replaced Mr. Wondolowski. But I think it starts at the top. And both Ina Jo and I have been chairpersons over those last 15 years and in different capacities. The way that works is if the director is a Democrat, which Tony is, then the chairman has to be a Republican. That's the way in all 88 counties. And our deputy director then is a Republican and vice versa. So when we had a Republican director, Ina Jo filled that position, and now I fill it. But I guess I want to talk because it is the board members, I believe, that set the tone for the rest of the staff about how to administer fair, accurate, and transparent elections. And we're all committed to that. So it is transparent. Bipartisan teams do everything. We're here to serve the voters. There isn't a right way to count a vote or a wrong way. It's like balls and strikes. It's like watching the Indians game or the Guardians now. When they win another game, the score was 4-3 when you went to bed, and it's 4-3 when you get up. So we're committed to doing that. We do leave our political views outside the polling location. You won't find us in bipartisan arguments. And we're committed to working together as bipartisan teams. And it is a point, and I know Ina Jo stresses this and our management team does, accuracy over speed. While we get the complaints that the results aren't available at 11 o'clock or 11:30 at night, You know, it's a huge election, one of the largest election jurisdictions in the country. And if we got to wait till 1 a.m. or 1:30 a.m. to count, 500, 600,000 votes, we're going to do it to get it right, not for purposes of candidates' needs or the media's needs. So I guess I just want to talk about that. And we're very fortunate as members to work together, and I think set a nice tone for all the people that work in our agency. I think on to the next slide, Tony.
Okay. And so, we do want voters in this county to have faith in their elections processes in the state, and particularly in Cuyahoga County, which we can speak to. And as Jeff had just said, there is a culture here at this Board of Elections where we do work together, and we work together to get the business of elections done correctly. We have many processes, policies, procedures that are documented, and a lot of them go before the board, this bipartisan board. They go ahead and they comment and provide adjustments to those, and we get them approved, making sure that everyone is treated fairly and everyone has access. And there's a lot of things out there in Title 35 which dictates a lot of what we do here at the Board of Elections, as well as Secretary of State directives. So we follow all of those things to the letter of the law to ensure that every individual has the ability to get a ballot who wants one. And when they do cast it, it is done. And then they can be confident that it'll be counted and counted correctly. Real important thing as far as election integrity is concerned. Voting equipment is not connected to the internet. It is not hacked. And I want to go to 2 points of this. One, at our offices where we create the ballot and the computer in which the results are tabulated, that's a standalone network. It is not connected to the internet. So that's its own separate system. And then when you do go to the polls on election day and you're putting your ballot into that scanner there, that scanner is not connected to the internet. In fact, it's not even allowed to have any kind of wireless capability within the operating mechanisms of that device where it could send out some kind of symbol or signal. So they're all their own standalone equipment. Now you do see results on election night. Those are reported. They come across on the internet. But what happens is we have a whole box of brand new memory sticks, and periodically we download election results from that standalone network. We put it on that thumb drive. We upload those results into a computer that is connected to the internet. And then that thumb drive is used once and only once. It's put in a safe. And the next time we report results, we're opening up a brand new stick and going through that process again. There is an air gap and data goes one way and doesn't come back the other way. The scanners are using out at the polls and what we scan your vote by mail ballots on, we conduct a logic and accuracy test on every piece of equipment, not a sampling, every piece of equipment. We're taking a pre-voted sample test deck, running it through the equipment. We know what the results should be. We're comparing to make sure that actually what did happen matches what the expected results are. And when that's 100% accurate, we know that the equipment is ready to go. And then same thing we talked about vote by mail. There's integrity in that system. There are 5 fields that we're looking at to make sure that the correct stuff is on those applications. And that same database that we use, the voter registration database, to verify the data is also the same database that we record that we sent out a ballot. And that's how we know one person, one ballot sent out, regardless of how many applications you sent in, you're only going to get that one ballot. And then some more information regarding why everything we do here in Cuyahoga County, you should have confidence in what we do. Our voter registration database, we are using multiple systems to ensure that we can get the most accurate databases possible. We are getting monthly reports from Vital Statistics regarding individuals who have expired, clerk of courts regarding felony convictions, Social Security and the BMV to ensure that the individual's registrations are correct and we have the correct information for them. These are things that on an ongoing basis, we're doing it monthly. Some of these things are weekly, and it's not just every once in a while. So that helps us to have clean voter rolls. And one thing that we do very well, one of the many things we do very well in this county is conduct post-election audits. And we do something called a risk limiting audit where about 10 years ago, we received a grant to go ahead and figure out the best practices for these audits. They now are something that are being promoted across the country to do. We are experts in this and often called upon by other states. Entities like the Brennan Center calls us and they want to have us participate in panels to ensure that our elections are correct. And what at a real simple explanation as a risk limiting audit is we take a sampling of the ballots that were cast in election, some from election day, vote by mail, early in person, provisional. We have bipartisan teams hand tabulate those, and then we compare that hand tabulated result to the electronic result. Over the past 10 years, we have a 99.9% accuracy rate, which is pretty darn good. And we're very proud of that.
Just want to inject one point before you move to the next slide and the poll worker, attorneys as poll workers part of the presentation. Not only do we have, specific things we do to make sure that our elections are accurate, we want to make sure we just note that, our elections are safe. We have everybody's all concerned about cybersecurity. We work with the county, we have a security plan, we have all kinds of testing and that we've gone through to make sure that our systems are safe. And so I thought I would at least mention that, in this, given the concerns everybody has about cybersecurity, that we know and voters are confident that our systems not only are accurate, not only that we take those steps, not only that we're not connected to the internet, but we have done extensive cybersecurity programming and planning and to make sure that our systems are safe.
Most definitely. They are the most robust cybersecurity standards in the country, and other states and jurisdictions will tell you that. Okay. How all of you on this call are going to help us, and by being an attorney, poll worker, attorney, precinct election official, we indicated previously that we need about 4,000 individuals to execute this November election, and our goal is, of the 286 polling locations that we have, to have at least one attorney in each of those locations, which is very beneficial to us and helps us execute excellent elections. So taking a snapshot from just a couple of days ago, we have trained 3,200 of the 4,000 individuals, with 105 being attorneys, meaning that we need about another 200 to sign up in order for us to meet our goal. And there, some of the reasons that we seek out attorney poll workers is because of the skill set that you bring to this process. So a lot of times we do ask our attorney poll workers to manage the polling location, and the skill set that you have we have a very diverse population of individuals who serve as poll workers, and being able to communicate to them at a level that they understand is key, because if they understand what they're supposed to be doing, then they can do what they're supposed to be doing. The provisional process that we talked about, unfortunately, sometimes gets a negative connotation associated with it. It's a good safeguard, but that means an individual sometimes is not happy when they are told they need to vote provisionally. So again, using that skill set to provide them an explanation why can be very helpful. The reasons why they're sent to vote provisionally. We get observers, and we'll get observers this November, and some of them get a little excitable, and we need to kind of get them to calm down a little bit. So individuals who can deal with these overzealous individuals at times, they're not all overzealous, but sometimes they are, and keeping that calm demeanor and engaging in fact-based conversations with them and de-escalating the situation is something that we believe attorneys excel at. And then,
there's actually a question in the chat about observers. Maybe you can just touch on about how they are selected, how they have to register. The question was, can they just show up on election day? We know that they can't do that, but can you talk a little bit about what they're allowed to do? We do have some limitations, their parameters, and and then there's the questions also, are they picked by one of the parties? And we know some of the answers to that, but can you give a short answer to that?
Sure can. So there are deadlines in statute on when individuals can apply to be an observer, and those observers, they file with a political party, whether it's the county political party or the state political party. They are doing that, and then sometimes there can be groups of 5 individuals who can come together, candidates, and form this campaign of 5, where where they can be an observer. By the deadline established in statute, the political parties will send the Board of Elections a list of individuals and the locations that they will be participating or observing at, and that's how we know how many we're going to be out there on election day or potentially be out there and where they will be going. We provide credentials to the entity, the political party that has brought forward the list, and then they go ahead and they provide those credentials to those observers. We then also notify our poll workers that you potentially could have observers at your location. Now, and we provide some guidance and training for coordinators of the observers, again, individuals with the political parties who are identified for us to work with. An observer is just doing that. They are observing. They're not allowed to touch anything. They're not allowed to assist voters in the polling location. They are to look, see what's going on. If something seems amiss, they are to, typically what they do is they call back to a contact person with their political party, who then will either tell them, no, that's okay, that's supposed to happen, or they reach down to the Board of Elections and say, hey, we observed this at a poll place, then we will follow up. Why I advocate for individuals to be poll workers versus observers is that when you are a poll worker, you are participating in the process. You're executing the election. You can keep things from going amiss. And if something seems to be not correct by one of your co-workers in the location, one of your co-poll workers, you can engage in that conversation and try to correct that, where observer can't do that. They watch, they report, and then you let us know. So that's how you become an observer. You just can't show up at a poll place. If you don't have those credentials, we will ask you to leave. If the person is a little bit obstinate, we hate to do this, but if need be, we call upon our sheriff's department to help us out to ensure that everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing.
And I know Jeff was going to talk a little bit about being a poll worker, and maybe you can also address there's a question in there about whether you really need to, have prior experience being a poll worker in order to serve.
Right. Thank you, Anna Jo. Just to pick up on that question, it's like anything. The more experience you get, the better judgment you get. And having an attorney there for the first time, that's great. You're going to be better the next time you do an election. I jumped in an election back in 2020 when we had long lines, and the COVID was there, was a presidential election. There were all sorts of issues with curbside voting, taking personnel out of the polling location to go serve those individuals. And so I found myself, along with my colleague David Wondolowski, trying to assist one of our locations in North Royalton. Dave was out in Broadview Heights. So it was an interesting experience. It can be very hectic at that time because the lines were very long. But the more you do it, either as an attorney or just as someone that's retired or takes off from work in whatever profession you might be, you can really add a lot of value and benefit to a really important process. So the fact that we have attorneys, and Tony's going to talk about this, and Carrie, you get 4 CLEs now as attorneys, and that's why you're here today. There's an incentive for you to participate. You have to take the class, and Tony will explain that class. You got to spend 13 hours on election day, even some more time on election day, because you got to get there a little early, and you got to close the location down after 8:30. Might take an hour or so, and you got an hour or two of meeting prior to on Monday evening. So it's not about making money, and you do get about $220. That doesn't come close to what your billables might be in whatever profession you work, or what field of law you work in. But you can really add value and benefit to our process to have fair, accurate, and transparent elections in this county. And I think that kind of tees it up now why you're here. What we would ask you to do after today's session to sign up as a poll worker online, take our classes. I think we have a variety of schedules to accommodate your schedule. I think it's online, in person. And you're going to just walk away just shaking your head and say, oh my gosh, I never realized how many safeguards are in this system. These electronic poll books, how they work, the fact that an electronic poll book could send an address out to me when I should be at XYZ voting. They'll send it to my phone so I can follow it on Google's Maps. It's all sorts of, and the fact that they can tell that I voted absentee, and they'll give me a provisional ballot just to verify that, when I say I haven't voted absentee, that I have voted. So Tony, why don't we tee that up now with regards to how our participants today can join us in ensuring fair, accurate, transparent elections in this county.
Yeah, so to Jeff's point, you don't have to have been a poll worker before, our training is geared, and the materials that we provide you with the manual and at the polling locations, we have things called quick reference guides. If you can read, you can follow along, and you can execute what you need to do, which is great. It is required that you do take a training, and you go to our website, 443vote.us. You can sign up right there. It's a simple application that you sign up for. Right there, you would indicate there's a question if you are an attorney. You answer yes, and then it's going to ask for your attorney registration number, and you put that right there in the system, and we have it. From our website, you self-sign up for the class that you want to go to. So whatever is convenient to you near your home, whatever works for your schedule, we have them 6 to 7 days a week, during the day, on evenings, all of those things for you to go ahead and learn how to become a poll worker. So you do all those things. We will reach out to you. We'll give you your assignment. We'll keep you up to date, communicating via text message and emails with you. And then what we ask is on the Monday before, on November 7th, you come for a 1 to 2 hour meeting, do a pre-setup of the polling location, put up the signage, set up the voting booths, and get things as far as you can to prepare yourself for the next day. That's at 6 p.m. Again, 1 to 2 hours, depending on how efficient things are going. The next day, it is a long day. You show up at 5:30 in the morning, you're there. So an hour before polls open, they're open till 7:30, and then you're going to be there for about another hour packing up when it's all said and done. Again, you have the tools there to help you get through that day. And I would say that 90% of the voters are routine voters. They show up, they provide their ID, they get checked in, they're on their way. It's maybe the 10%, take a little bit more time. It's provisional, redirecting, whatever it is. And what we try to avoid at all costs is putting a polling location of all new workers. We like to have a mix of veterans and new workers, so you have those co-workers that you count on. To Jeff's point, it might not meet your billable rates. However, this is somewhere where you are being compensated to get 4 CLEs, so that's kind of nice. But it's a civic duty. It's so important. It's the pride in saying that you participated in something, and you can then speak to why that vote is correct and accurate. So it's very simple. Our website, you follow through the training, very simple, comprehensive. And then again, we will follow up with you afterwards. We have some Zoom meetings where people can voluntarily participate in just to get additional information. But we do need you. We have 105. I'd like to get at least 286. So it is a game changer for us. So
let me add, Tony, too. We'll try to accommodate locations for you if we can, but that's not always possible. People might prefer to work at a location near their home, but sometime if you live on the east side, we may ask you to go to the west side or vice versa. It's just a matter of logistics, and we'll do the best we can. Let me just add, I know we have 2 other questions. We'll be winding up soon. My friend Michael Tellep has asked about verifying the signatures on the applications and the absentee ballots, Tony. We do that in a bipartisan team, don't we, too? A DNR look at that signature and come to a conclusion that it looks legitimate and it should be counted.
Yeah, we'll have one party person take a look at it, and then independently we'll have the other person will take a look at it and ensure that things are correct.
And if there's any question, the staff will bring it to the board and we make a decision. We look at them and make a decision.
That's correct. It doesn't happen often, but we've
Doesn't
done it
happen
before.
often.
We've done it before, Anna Joe. I also quickly, Mr. Tellep also asked about when we update our voter rolls. I don't like the term purging, but I like the term updating our voter rolls. And we do that every 2 years, Tony, per federal and state statute, correct?
Actually, we update on an annual basis. The National Voter Registration Act requires us to do that on an annual basis. But there's also rules on proximity to elections. So that has not happened in 2022 because of the August election. So we will not have had any of those types of updates this year. That will happen in January, but we do it on an annual basis as the law requires and the Secretary of State drives that process for us.
It may be worth it, Justice, to mention that you're not getting removed from the rolls if you have had voter activity. And there's rules that describe, what counts as voter activity. I mean, it is as simple as updating your registration, voting it, within a certain period of time. But yeah, I tend to, we're calling it voter maintenance, and we may have to maintain our records. And We're not trying to purge anybody to be punitive, but we do need to maintain the record, so.
Yeah. Signing a petition, Ina Joe, is
Yeah,
voter
signing
action.
up, exactly.
And the secretary has taken other steps now where he's sharing these lists with this League of Women Voters and other voting right advocate groups to try to track these individuals down on these lists to see if in fact they want to be registered or have some activity. So we have one final question here. It's just, I guess, more of a comment. Yes, it just, Ms. Secreta, it was more just a comment about the importance of poll working and the value and benefit you can provide this very important process.
And thanks for your service. Carrie, did you have questions?
Well, I mean, you guys made this the easiest moderating gig I've ever had, so thank you for that. I did want to echo kind of how we're ending here, what Ellen just said in the Q&A for those of you who didn't see. I signed up to be a poll worker. I took my training 2 Saturdays ago. First, I'll echo what Jeff said. I was just so pleasantly surprised that how much checks and balances there are. I mean, to the point that when you're driving back down to the Board of Elections at the end of the night, the D and the R have to drive together in the same car, and it was stressed. And like, well, if their car is too small to take all the ballot boxes, then you need this third person, but they all still have to be in the same car. The voter. The provisional ballot table, all the checks and balances that go in it. It really was eye-opening, and I'm excited to work November 8th and November 7th in the evening. So I really do encourage everyone on this call to sign up and become a poll worker. I don't see any other questions, and we are at 1 o'clock. So does anyone have any final thoughts before we wrap up and say have a great weekend?
I just want to thank the Cleveland Metropolitan Bar Association with partnering with us, and thank all our attorney friends that have participated today, and have a wonderful weekend.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Tony, Jeff, Ina Joe, for all your service over the years and coming here today. We will have that PowerPoint available for people. Also, at the end of the program, we're going to send an email for those of you who want CLE credit. Please make sure you fill out that survey, because that's how we report to the court that you were here this afternoon. And sign up to be a poll worker. Thank you, guys. Have a great afternoon.